Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8T. This handset was launched in November 2019 and is basically the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 with a faster charger and also with NFC. Now the price tag is below $200, which for a quad camera phone is not half bad. It's actually $167. 6.3-inch screen, a big battery and 4K filming sounds great for this price tag. Okay, so here we go. We're dealing here with a phone that uses Gorilla Glass 5 at the front and at the back side. So glass back with a nifty little gradient from blue at the top to purple at the bottom side. Between them sits a plastic frame, and also this phone is slightly splash resistant on account of some nano coating. The thickness is 8.6 millimeters and the weight is 200 grams, and aside from the blue hue, there's also a white and gray one. Now the camera will protrude quite a bit here, as you can well see for yourself, and on a flat surface you will probably drag it. It's a bit of a slippery phone, but there's a case bundled inside the box. Now the phone feels a bit heavy, but also reassuring and pretty well built. Rather big bezels and comfy buttons. Now on the screen front, this display here is a 6.3-inch IPS LCD that has a resolution of 2340 over 1080 pixels and also 84% coverage of the NTSC color range. There is a teardrop notch here at the top side, which you can see, and now it's time to have a glance at the screen experience provided by this display. Okay, so we go here and we got this one here, a typical video which we use to test the screen. Let's go all out, 1080p, 60 frames per second, and move it a bit further. And at the same time feel the screen. Now as you can see, symmetry is rather okay, and the notch, the teardrop notch, will not bite too much into the whole experience. Now let's see if the Wi-Fi is on. Okay, here we go. Now this is the viewing experience. As you can see, the colors are pretty vivid, pretty reasonable symmetry in spite of the huge chin that we have here, wide view angles, and a pretty solid brightness, I would say, at least indoors. Outdoors, that's another thing, and the contrast is not the best in the world, especially on a sunny day. And the blacks are a bit gray in my view. Okay, so we're done with that. Now I think it's time that we saw the results of our other tests. And as you know, we put the screen under the microscope, and this is what the pixels are like. It's an RGB stripes arrangement, and then we go further and we measure the brightness, achieving a top level that's a bit underwhelming, 372 lux units. Usually 400 is enough to pass our test. Well, here we liked more, but in the end this one beats the Huawei Nova 5T, Huawei P30 Lite, and the TCL Plex. It's also the equal of the Xiaomi Redmi Note 7, by the way. Still, it scores below the Motorola One Action and the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 Pro, so that's about it. And of course, Xiaomi also offers a bunch of customizations for the screen. You go to the display, you got your brightness level, reading mode, a dark mode, and a color scheme where you can tweak color temperature and the colors itself. Then there's text size, and you can even hide the notch if you want to. Now going a bit further, you can find the other pieces of hardware here. So first of all, we got the Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 octa-core CPU, which is clocked up to 2 GHz, so Snapdragon 665, accompanied by 3 or 4 gigs of RAM and 32 or 64 gigabytes storage. But there's also a version with 128 gigabytes of storage plus microSD. Now the phone can run games in a pretty okay fashion, at least on a medium to high level of detail. Don't expect to put it on an ultra level of detail. Still, the processor not the youngest in the world. Now we also did a bunch of benchmarks. Don't get me wrong, there's no lag here in day-to-day use, but some of the more intense games may require a bit of extra resources. Now on the benchmark front, we first tackle Antutu 8, where we surpassed the Motorola One Macro and the Xiaomi Redmi Note 7. Now at the same time, we score below the Motorola One Action and below the Motorola One Zoom. Moving further to the classic Antutu 7, we managed to beat phones like the Xiaomi Mi A3 and the Moto G7 Plus, scoring below the Samsung Galaxy A70 and A50. When it comes to the Geekbench 5, I will take into account the multi-core test, and we're beating the Motorola One Zoom, which is actually not bad, and the Cat S52, while at the same time we scored below the Motorola One Macro, for example. And in the graphical benchmark, this one here, we're superior to the Samsung Galaxy A70, also not bad overall. So we're pretty much gravitating around the Motorola One series models performance-wise, and we also did some measurements when it comes to the temperature. Let's check those out. So here you can see a variety of heat map tests with the FLIR scanner. Basically, when it comes to gaming, things get a bit hot. We got up to 39.8 degrees Celsius in gaming and 37.4 degrees Celsius in benchmarks. Pretty close to the 40 degrees which people dread. So basically, if you're gaming, you should take a pause after a long session, but in benchmarks things were rather okay. And the heat seems to concentrate in the top side of the phone, and dissipation is quite decent. Now on the battery front, this phone hosts a 4000 mAh battery, lithium polymer, with 18 watt fast charge, one of the differences from the Redmi Note 8. Now we're dealing here with a phone that provided us with some pretty solid results. We got them here, and this is the battery test. When it comes to the video playback, we achieved 13 hours and 9 minutes. It's a rather good result. It beats the recently tested Huawei Nova 5T, also the iPhone XR and iPhone 11. Still, it scores below the Galaxy S10e, TCL Plex and Galaxy A50. That was video playback. This is continuous usage, and it's actually not a bad placement on the 50th spot. 11 hours 4 minutes. It beats Samsung Galaxy A80, Galaxy S10 Plus and Xiaomi Redmi Note 7. Still, it's no match for the Motorola One Zoom, Galaxy A50 and Galaxy A70. The charging is, I would say, okay at 1 hour and 40 minutes, and after 30 minutes of charging you're at 40%, while after 1 hour you're at 81%. So far so good in my book. When it comes to the acoustics, don't expect stereo speakers. There's a singular speaker on the right here, which you will not exactly cover in landscape mode unless you have a huge hand. And well, now as far as the music goes, got this app here, and the equalizer only offers settings if you're, well, attaching headphones. This is the audio experience. Okay, a bunch of conclusions. I would say it's pretty loud and clear, and there's lots of vibration at the body at full volume. The sound feels rather full, and even the bass is okay. We also possess an audio jack right here in case you were wondering, and overall the experience felt satisfying in both games and music and also movies. There's FM radio in the mix, and now it's time for our tests. This is the first one, the decibel meter test with a sample. And it's actually not the most impressive in the world, so let's see some of the results we achieved here. So 87.6 decibels may sound okay, but I've seen phones going past that value. For example, we definitely beat the iPhone XR and the Huawei P20 Lite, maybe also even the P30 Lite, so keep that in mind. Now when it comes to the other test, it's this one here, the gaming one. We usually get excited over 100 decibels here. Only 95 is not enough for us. So above Galaxy S10 Plus, still above the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, but below many other phones, including the Galaxy A80 and A50. In the end, not very impressive as the figures have shown. Speaking of things that should be impressive, well, the cameras. The front one is a 13 megapixel shooter in the teardrop notch with f2.0 aperture. At the back, there is a quad setup. The star of the show is the 48 megapixel AI camera, and we also have a LED flash here. And we also have a 6-piece lens, autofocus 4-in-1 pixels, plus an 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera, and 2 megapixel macro camera with 2 centimeter focus, and once again 2 megapixel bokeh camera. 4K video capture, and the camera functionality includes a full 48 megapixel shot with lots of details, AI functions, pro functions, slow-mo, and even a night mode. Now let's go to the gallery and see how the camera performed, and as usual, we have quite a few shots. It's being a sunny and mixed winter, and let's see how it all panned out. Okay, so here we are. This is the gallery we took. These are the photos we've taken. Now, the colors feel a bit distorted and a bit muted on account of it being a pretty gray day. and the deformation happens particularly in the ultra wide shots. Now the regular shots have, I would say, decent colors, realistic colors, but the ultra wide ones, you can see there's a bit of deformation here compared to what you expect. And as you can see, this tree isn't exactly very detailed, so you will lose details on the edges of the ultra wide shots. Okay, so I would say that the digital zoom is fine. I'm pretty happy with the results. There is no optical zoom here, and I'm also happy with the way HDR helps us when dealing with complicated scenarios with higher dynamic range. We move further, and be careful when dealing with the sun, which is hidden behind your subject. Once again, an example of regular shot and ultra wide shot. This is what you get with the regular one, and this is what you get with the ultra wide one. I'm happy there's not a big curvature of the objects on the edge, but once again, as you can see, you're losing quite a bit of detail. Happy with the zoom again, happy with the colors in general, and let's skip this one with the hat. Let's focus on the hat-free selfies. Okay, so the colors feel a bit intense every once in a while, that's what I notice. A bit overexposed, even though it wasn't a hugely sunny day. It makes me wonder what will happen on a truly sunny day in May, June or July. These look like pretty okay shots. I'm not saying they're bad, but the colors are a bit too intense for my liking. They are clean, they are crisp, and if you're taking a photo of 48 megapixel resolution, there is going to be a ton of details, that's for sure. Not very happy with the sky and the way it looks in some of the photos. Okay, I've also taken some more shots here, which should serve as an example of good looking bokeh. Okay, so we have this statue here, and we used it as an example of bokeh, blurring the background and highlighting the foreground. Pretty decent camera bokeh at the back side, and here we focused on the smaller objects, achieving quite a bit of detail and a nice texture. Okay, and we played around with this goofy and this nose here, this statue, focusing very closely, and at some point we even activated the macro mode, which produced, I would say, a Redmi Note 8 Pro level details, not exactly at the level achieved with the Huawei Nova 5T, which is superior in the macro department. Now here we go. After all these shots, we have some more colorful ones. So get this. Colors are okay when they aren't intense, details are decent, close-ups are fine, ultra-wide brings a slight color deformation, and now it's time to talk about the selfies. Now the selfies, I would say we have good details around the skin area and the texture of the skin and the hair, the clothes, everything I'm wearing, not bad. The eyes feel more natural and more realistic than I've seen on other phones, other mid-rangers lately, but the bokeh separation, which was achieved with the special portrait option, doesn't exactly feel fantastic. It highlights the face compared to the blurred background, but I've seen better separation on other phones. Okay, so it even cuts a bit of my headphone, but I've seen that on many handsets as well. So some of the shots are quite okay, and there's a slight tendency to expose a, let's say, doll face if you don't deactivate all the filters. Keep that in mind. By default, you will have a doll face on account of the options, and you should get rid of it if you want natural looking selfies. Anyway, once again, we took those huge 8,000 to 6,000 pixel shots, and they have a lot of details, just in case you want it, and actually they don't take a long while to process, which is something that also shocked me on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, so that's fine. Overall, I would say that in spite of the praise I brought in some aspects, the macro and the ultra-wide cameras, well, I've seen better on other phones. Once again, we are below $200, so take that into account. Low light pictures, well, actually I'm pretty surprised here. While the daytime photos are fine, but they're on a Huawei P30 Lite level, not Huawei Nova 5T level, the low light shots actually surprised me. It could be the scenario, it's the beautiful Budapest during the Christmas fair, and basically you have to go really wrong to make it look bad. And even though we have a blurred or missed shot every once in a while, in general I was pretty happy with the results. I'm happy with the lighting particularly, and the colors caught in this dim artificial lighting. To be honest, not bad. Be wary of moving objects, since they may pose a problem or two in your shots. But in general, for low light capture, below $200, Well, this is one of the best phones I've tested recently. For some reason, most mid-ranges I've tested recently surprise me in the nighttime capture. Some Motorola One ones, the Xiaomi Mi A3, Huawei Nova 5T, and a few other phones. This is definitely top 5 material from what we saw in this beautiful fair. We're done with the camera, we're done with the photos, we're not done with the videos. We've taken 10 videos with the camera, and here we go. So this is video number 1. Okay, things to notice here. This is Full HD, MP4, 30 frames per second and 20 megapsecond bitrate. There are problems with the wind. It was a 30 km/h wind on this day. And some refocus may happen every once in a while. I would say the brightness is okay, clarity is pretty decent, but the sky isn't very well rendered color-wise. Okay, so here we're talking about the stabilization test. We're walking around and filming. Pretty great electronic stabilization, to be honest. Not that bad. The wind was hoarded here, poor microphones. And to be honest, this stabilization is better than what I encountered on the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 Pro. Believe it or not, this one actually feels like it films a bit better than the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 Pro. It may have been a sunnier day then, overexposure, but I don't know, it feels like it films better, minus the sky, which is totally white at the top, some dynamic range problems, but pretty fast adjustment of the exposure. And if you're filming in 4K, the results will be pretty close to the high mid-ranger you aspire at. We also have some selfie videos with the hat on. It was too cold. The sky is too white again. Pretty crisp and nice face texture here. Not the best stabilization though, so vlogging career may be in peril. Fighting the dynamic range here and the focus a little bit. The 60 frames per second the 60 frames per second video will be slightly overexposed. But if you're going for regular 4K, results will surprise you. Even the colors are okay, the clarity and all that. So I would say it can fight the Samsung Galaxy A40, maybe even the A50, and definitely the Motorola One Action and Vision. Now let's go to the low light scenario. Here we are, lots of sausages available in the Budapest Fair, and once again, pretty nice. I know the video is shaky, but the colors and clarity aren't half bad. There's a bit of flicker in motion, but that was to be expected. And this time we also caught a concert where the microphone was pretty decent. And we actually have more microphones than usual. There's 2 at the bottom and 1 at the top. Okay, we're done with the camera. We had some surprises in low light photo capture and some surprises in the video department, but overall the ultra wide and macro didn't exactly deliver the best mid-range performance. Once again, still sub $200. On the connectivity front, this phone has 3 microphones. You see 2 of them here next to the audio jack, 1 and 2, and then another one here at the top side. Aside from that, we have an infrared emitter at the top right here, and we also have an USB-C port at the bottom. We also have an audio jack, we have NFC, we have 2 nano SIM card slots, 4G LTE, VoLTE, Wi-Fi dual band, Wi-Fi direct, Wi-Fi display, Bluetooth 4.2, GPS, AGPS, GLONASS and Beidou. The calls were pretty loud and clear, they were pretty satisfying, and now I'm pretty curious to see how we did in the speed test. These values were achieved with Wi-Fi and 4G. Now on 4G we got up to, let's see, 170 megapsecond downloads, not bad at all. 65.8 megapecsecond uploads, once again excellent. On Wi-Fi we got to 223 megapecond downloads and 25.6 megapecond uploads. I would say we're at a flagship level and exactly what we expected. Okay, so that's connectivity, so it's time to talk about the software. Okay, so we're running on MIUI 11 on top of Android Pie. To the leftmost home screen, we find the aggregator of shortcuts, advanced tools, an area where we can take a brief note, calendar events, recommended, and stocks for some reason. There's no app drawer here, as you can well see for yourself. As usual, MIUI involves keeping everything on the home screens. Now, let's see what else. Multitasking involves 2 columns, which also feels a bit old school. And split screen goes like this. You just press and hold and put an app here and then the other one and you're all set. Well, this one doesn't support it, but you get the gist of it. Gallery. So that's the spirit. Okay, so that's multitasking in a nutshell. Now, if you keep the screen pressed or pinch it, you trigger the widgets, which have been the same for a while in MIUI, transparent and white, and wallpaper and settings for, well, transition and layout. Other than that, let's see what we got here. The experience is pretty clean and well spaced with these muted but colorful icons. And aside from that, the drop-down section is very clean and aired out, and shows you useful features including screenshot, airplane mode, reading mode, dark mode, and a screen recorder. Okay, so that's about it here in the drop down. The settings are also well spaced and niftily colorful. There are no longer areas around them like lines drawn between them or boxes. They're free to go. Connectivity, lock screen, display, sound and vibration, home screen, wallpaper, passwords and security, and also digital well-being and parental control. Special features include a game turbo for gamers, quick reply, and a second space where you basically simulate another phone if you're having two users on the same phone. No app drawer once again, and for security you can opt for face unlock or my favorite, this little fellow here, the fingerprint scanner at the back. It's a bit small and it's a bit flat, but I always find it, and I actually have two fingers to register for it, and I'm pretty happy with its accuracy and speed. So overall, that's the experience software-wise. I don't think I missed anything, and I think it's high time we spoke about the verdict. Okay, so of course I'm going to tell you the pros and cons of this handset. On the pro side, it's got a pretty looking backside, okay screen colors for an LCD, pretty nice performance for the price you're paying, solid battery also, once again for below $200. Solid battery all around, and good electronic stabilization in the videos, actually surprising. Digital zoom wasn't half bad, and the photo details pretty okay in my view. Selfies were kind of good, actually above what I saw on the Galaxy A50 or even Huawei P30 Lite. And also the videos, the video capture was above my expectation overall. There's NFC, there's a fast connectivity and a fast fingerprint scanner. Those round up the positive aspects of the phone. The cons, the design is a bit generic and dated. It's not the brightest screen around, let's face it. The phone gets a bit hotter in long sessions of gaming, and also the speaker is not very loud. The ultra-wide photos will lack details on the sides, and also the macro camera, well, I've seen better on a few other phones. And some of the colors of the photos were a bit over-enthusiastic with the exposure and, well, colors. In the end, you're still paying much less than you're paying on a Galaxy A model or the Huawei P Lite model, but you're getting a good portion of the same package. It can easily fight a Samsung Galaxy A50 and a Huawei P30 Lite easily at $167. It's above expectations in some parts of the camera, and in some ways it was better than the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Electronic stabilization is one, and I'm thinking there's maybe another one which we're going to find out in the text review. So conclusion, above expectation, and its only cannibal also comes from Xiaomi, is the Xiaomi Mi A3. Otherwise, I can't quite see a rival for below $200. This has been it from gsn.com. This has been the review of the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8T. Bye bye.